Hey, Boog.
Hey, good morning, Rock, or
Good
good
morning.
afternoon.
When you see what this current team's doing right now, the way they're emphasizing homegrown players or trading for guys and then developing them in their own systems, that remind you at all of how that 70 team was put together? If you go down the roster, how many guys were brought into the organization new, and then a couple of like true trades?
Well, there were quite a few guys that we got via trade. The kitty core thing back in the early 60s had pretty much died out. I mean, the Milt Pappas and Chuck Estrada and Jack Fisher and, Jim Gentile. Of course, Jim Gentile came from the Dodgers. But we had Marv Breeding and Ron Hansen and Jackie Brandt. And it was kind of a combination, kind of like this team.
Next up, question from Dan Connolly. Dan, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Boog. How are you?
Hey, Dan.
You had the rare opportunity to play directly behind Mr. Robinson at third base, and then later across from him,
Right.
and had the opportunity to give him a few Gold Gloves by saving all those errant throws of his.
Yeah, right.
When you think back to that 70 World Series and what he did, I know you guys have been seeing it for 10 years at that point, but do you feel like that in a sense was Brooks's coming out, and how much more did he up his game in that series versus just the regular Brooks Robinson that you saw on a daily basis?
It was kind of just a normal day. He did stuff like that, and he did better stuff than that over the course of the year. And I've always maintained that if Brooks Robinson would have been playing in Yankee Stadium in New York, I think he could have run for president. He was that special. And when I played behind him in left field, I can't tell you how many times I broke, to my right, thinking that I'm going to catch, that I got to really hustle. And don't worry, he had it. And, between him and Louis Aparicio, and Louis wasn't exactly a slouch at short either. And, I just, after a while, nothing got through there. And, especially around Brooks, he was incredible. And then when I had the opportunity to go across the infield from him and do that on a day-to-day basis, a lot of people said that, that maybe only jokingly or maybe half jokingly that I got him Gold Gloves. Yeah, I got him Gold Gloves, all right. I was privileged, and it was an honor to be over there at first base. And, I don't really care who you were. He got you by one step. He got Frank Howard by one step, and he got Rod Carew by one step. You were out, and that's all there was to it. And it was a lot of fun being out there with him.
Next up, Melanie Newman.
Hey, thank you so much for doing this with us today.
Sure.
Every time that I read something from outside perspective, it seems that 1969 was a reason 1970 came in as aggressive as it was between the almost MVP, the almost World Series. How much was that a driving force that year? Did you play with a little bit of a chip?
All that winter after the 69 season, after we lost, and when we came back to the airport in Baltimore after we lost that last game in Shea Stadium, there were, 5,000 people standing behind the fence. And they were all standing there with their hands and their fingers sticking through the fence. And I think all of us, I know I did, I went over there and I touched as many hands as I could, and I told them, I said, just wait till next year. And they were all screaming and hollering and everything else. And to be honest with you, I really didn't dwell on it over the winter that much. I thought about it every now and then, and then when I got to spring training the next year, there weren't any meetings where anybody came out and said, hey, we got our butt kicked last year. Let's go get them, guys, and all of that kind of stuff. It was just an inner knowledge that all of us had, and a feeling that we all had that we were gonna make it right. There wasn't a there wasn't a thing where we went public with it or anything else. We just knew what we were going to do.
Next up, Steve Molesky.
Two eventual Hall of Fame managers in that series as well. What was a younger Earl like in 1970?
Oh, he was a pain in the butt. He did, Earl and I got along okay. He never said anything to me. And he never said anything to Frank, and he never said anything to Brooks. And the guys that were playing every day, Earl never said anything to. But Bobby Floyd, he was on his butt constantly. And people that didn't play every day, Earl, I think that was one of his strong suits, is that, hey, we might need you before this game's over. Stay in the game. In other words, don't go in the clubhouse and sit in there and not watch the game. I want you to be out here. I want you to be part of the team and watch the game. We might need you after a while. And that was one of his strong suits. But personally, going back, I played for Earl in 1960 in Appleton, or I played with Earl. Earl was our second baseman, and there was a big first baseman from either Des Moines or Cedar Rapids in the old 3I league that hit a line drive, and Earl jumped up and the ball hit him right in the middle of the chest. And he said, I quit. And then he's laying there, and we're fanning him and everything and making fun of him. And so that was the last time he ever played. And then he managed that year. We had a heck of a team. We had Pete Ward and Dean Chance, and we had some other really good prospects in the Orioles organization. And anyway, Earl, I didn't see Earl again until 8 years later when he came to the team. Harry Dalton hired him as a coach, and I'd been in the big leagues for 7 years when Earl got there, and I I showed him all the watering holes and all the good places to go in Baltimore that I knew, and where to go get the best crabs and all of those kind of things. And then all of a sudden, we weren't doing that good by All-Star break. And so they said goodbye to Hank and hello to Earl. And he was special.
Perfect. We've got a couple more questions for Boog, but we've also been joined by Orioles Hall of Famer Don Buford. Thanks for joining us, Don. Media, if you have a question, just please specify who your question is for, and we'll get going. Thanks so much, Don.
Okay, thank you.
Next up, we have a question for Boog from Rich Dubroff.
Hey, Boog.
Yeah, hey, Rich.
You guys won 3 pennants, 69, 70, 71. And that hasn't been done a whole lot since. With the extra playoff rounds, do you think that what you guys accomplished is going to stand out even more?
Yeah, as I think back on it, the first year that we had the playoffs in 69, it didn't seem right. Because I think we won the American League East by 19 games or something like that. And we had to go out and prove ourselves again, and then all of a sudden, we beat Minnesota 3 straight, and we didn't lose a game to anybody in any playoffs. And in the beginning, it didn't seem fair, but it's probably the right thing for baseball. I think it was a good thing for baseball overall.
Next, we have a question for Boog from Nathan Ruiz.
Hey, Boog, thanks for doing this.
Sure.
Obviously, ideally, this would be you'd be able to gather with your old teammates. You mentioned the people sticking their fingers through the fence, and you'd be able to see some fans at Camden Yards. What kind of disappointing that that's not happening, but at the same time, how exciting is it that at some point ideally you guys will be able to do that.
How exciting is it to do what? To do the.
And at some point, you guys will be able to get together in front of the crowd and
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh no, I always look forward to seeing my teammates. Hey, these guys are people that I went to war with. I went to battle with them. They're my dearest friends, and I trust them explicitly. And I think we all feel the same way. You know, when you play 162 games in 175 days, you get to know a lot of things about your teammates, and your teammates get to know a lot of things about you. So, and it's kind of fun. And, you know, every relationship wasn't exactly perfect, but our one goal, regardless, was to win, period. With or without Earl Weaver or anybody else, we were out there to win.
Next up, we have another question for Boog from Jeff Arnold. Jeff, go ahead.
What's going on, Boog? Hope you're doing well, and tell JW I say hi, all right?
Yeah, I sure will, Jeff. We were just talking about you the other day.
Oh, nice.
It was all good. It was all good, by the way.
I wanted to ask you, what was Jim Palmer like back in the 1970s? You know what he was like as a pitcher, but you know, what were just some of your memories of him pitching in that season and in that World Series?
Well, you know, I think one of the games, I don't know if it was that year or the year before, but Jimmy had an elbow problem. And I think we were in Yankee Stadium, and I told Jimmy, I said, hey, get out there and pitch. He wasn't going to pitch that day. He was going to miss a turn. And that didn't happen very often. So I just told him, I said, get out there. I said, you shut them out, and I'll hit a 2-run homer, and we'll go, and, you know, I'll buy you dinner tonight. Exactly what happened. I mean, it was coincidence, of course. You know, I hit a 2-run homer. Jimmy pitches a 1-hitter, and he didn't have anything. And Yankees were looking for too much. But Jimmy was a gamer. I mean, they talk about guys that can't throw 100 pitches, and they got to get them out of there. I think Jimmy threw 130, 140 all the time. And, of course, guys were geared a little bit different back then, too. But I've always maintained, and as much as I love Dave McNally and Mike Cuellar, if I had to win one game, my starting pitcher is going to be Jim Palmer.
Next up, we have a question for either Don or Boog from Melanie Newman.
Guys, I've read that we know the temper, but Earl was an astute judge of personality. And I can't help but look at this season with what Brandon Hyde has dealt with personally with so many of his guys. And even a couple of them have said, look, chemistry and having that personality read are one thing you can't put analytics and statistics on. Can you kind of speak to what that means, though, to have a manager who does know personalities and who goes a step beyond those X's and O's?
Well,
If you want to take that?
I'll try. From my standpoint, the personality of the manager is very important because he sets the stage for the whole ball club. But anyway, I think the ball players are the key no matter which way you look at it. And if the manager knows each one's ability and their personality, he knows how to motivate each and every one on an individual basis. Earl Weaver was a little different. I mean, he tried to motivate the whole team by getting kicked out of ball games. And that was the fun part. And he'd get on the umpires to make so that the umpires would turn around and they would take it out on the players. So we used to have to tell Earl, hey, just be quiet, sit back, enjoy the game. We'll take care of all the rest.
That's right. That's right. You're taking strikes away from me, you know? Hey, sit over there. We got this. Don't worry.
Don't worry. But the analytics and stuff, I think that comes from day one in spring training. Your analytics start from number one, especially defensively, how your pitchers are gonna pitch to your opponents, and then we would defense how that pitcher was pitching to that team that day, we knew exactly what he was going to do with his pitches because each guy was different. Cuellar was screwball and curveball, and every now and then throw the fastball by you. But we knew he was throwing that screwball, and so you're going to get a lot of ground balls. Players were not going to go to the opposite way with him because he didn't throw that hard. So we played slightly to pull with most of him pitching, and then a guy like Palmer, you had to play more straight away because he threw a variety of fastballs, curveballs, changeups, etc. McNally curveballs, that kind of thing. Pat Dobson was fastball, curveball. So we knew how each pitcher, with their abilities, what they were going to throw to the different hitters. So it made it very easy to defense, and that's how we set up, and that's how we played.
Next up is Rock Kubatko with a question for Don.
Hey, Don. Good to see you.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if you've been following what this team's doing now, the approach they're taking. I know you never had to go through a massive rebuild on your teams when you played, but those teams did rely a lot on the farm system and developing guys, and that's what they're trying to do here now.
Well, I think that's a great approach, and I think if you have a system, players can adapt to the system that you have, because it's very difficult to try to adapt to a player by player. If you have a system, the player adapts to the system, and that's a system all the players will be adapting to. So it makes it a little bit easier to be successful as a team.
Dan Connolly with a question for Don.
Hey, Don, thanks for doing this.
Sure, by all means.
I kind of asked the same question to Boog, but, for 4 of those 5 games in the World Series in 70, you had a very interesting vantage point being on the outfield grass, left field, behind a certain guy named Robinson, who kind of, showed everybody what he could do during that time. What was it like watching Brooks from that close and watching?
I didn't hear all of that, but I think what you said was watching Brooks from being that close.
Yeah,
Hello?
can you hear me okay? Can you hear me all right?
No, I can hear you now, yes.
Okay, I don't know what happened there, but from your vantage point as a left fielder for 4 of those 5 games, to see what Brooks was doing, what was that like from your perspective?
Well, I was like you sitting in the stands watching. I told him if he missed the ball, I'd kill him. I was enjoying watching him do it. But one of the good things that I knew about Brooks, those plays that he made, I guarantee you he practiced those plays 1,000 times from spring training throughout the season. He'd make plays going over, backhanding, throwing the first. Even in our regular practices every day, I think he practiced the same thing. So it made it look easy, but it was hard. Definitely was hard. But he made it look very easy. I mean,
that was one of the things that a lot of people didn't know about Brooksy is he took 100 ground balls every single day.
Every day.
And rain or shine. I mean, he took 100, and no wonder he caught everything. You couldn't hit. If you saw that many ground balls, one of them is going to be like that one that I took before the game today or yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, and so he made it look very easy. It wasn't easy, but he made it look easy.
No, it's not.
I was like a fan. I really was. I watched him make those plays, and balls that hit down the line, I'd break to go over to try to make sure I get there in time. And
yeah.
I knew I was running hard for no reason because he was making
for no reason. And I told him he won the MVP for the World Series, and he got a new Corvette from Sport Magazine or something. And I told him, I said, every one of those plays that you made, the ball was in the dirt over at first base, and I dug it out. And if I don't dig them out, it's E5. So I want half of that Corvette.
Yeah,
we laughed about it.
For a wheel.
We laughed about it. I was just like I said before. I was honored and thrilled just to be standing across the field from him.
Next up, we have a question for Don from Rich Dubroff.
Don, since the last reunion you guys had 10 years ago, unfortunately, several of your key players and Earl have gone. Are these reunions in some way a way to appreciate the guys who are still with you, because so many of you are in good health?
Sure. I mean, it's a great feeling to be able to communicate and get together again as a group. I mean, we're like Boog said, we're like family. I mean, we go on road trips, we go out to dinner together. We go from, I mean, it was never one guy by himself. It was always usually a group of 4, 5, or 6 guys. We go out to dinner and we, on a day off, we like if we flew into Cleveland the night before a ball game, we ended up probably having hamburgers and playing poker in the room for half the night. So it's always nice to see the guys and know their families are well, and hopefully everyone is well, and happiness and having good health and wealth and everything else.
Next up, we have a question for Don from Melanie Newman.
Sorry about that, Don. Just a follow-up here in talking about that transition of leadership. You had actually gone to the Orioles at one point and discussed that you could play in the outfield, and they kind of needed somebody out there, but it wasn't until the new regime came in that you won out that battle and you were really able to step in and start contributing out there. What was that like for you to kind of take the responsibility of assessing that need on your own and stepping forward and offering to go from the infield to the outfield?
Well, the good fortune part is I played against Earl and Boog in the minor leagues, and I played center field for the Lincoln, Nebraska. That was a White Sox organization, and of course, playing against Earl, playing center field, Earl knew that I could play the outfield. And when he took over in 1968 for Hank Bauer, I told Earl, I said, you know, I can play the outfield. So the other guys are struggling a little bit. I said, hey, let me play 7 innings, and if you take me out for defense, fine, or whatever, if you don't think I can do it. And so when Hank got released and Earl took over, he put me in the outfield, and I knew I could play the outfield. I played the outfield in college and also infield as well. So I had played some outfield, so I had some experience as far as knowing how to play the position, especially playing left field. That's a short throw for me. The ball's hitting on the ground, I charge it, make it a short throw. The only tough throws the balls that got to the wall, and you had to make the long throw. But I would make Belanger come out a long way, so I'd only throw like 80 or 90 feet, let Belanger throw it 200 feet.